So good afternoon all. My name's Scott Murphy. I head up the cloud business within the UK for Arrow. And really what I just want to spend some time on for the next kind of 20-30 minutes is just take you through Arrow's approach to the cloud, what our cloud strategy is, and then try and specifically bring that into some reality. Some of the questions from this morning in terms of how do you make money out of that? How do you maximise customer retention from all of these wonderful technologies that you've been hearing about and we'll hear about for the rest of the day? Hopefully try and bring that into how we believe that we can help you do that, and through our strategy and some platforms and stuff that we've developed. So, like I say, I'm going to focus on the cloud strategy, as Steve Pearce mentioned at the top of the afternoon. We've got a strategy around build and resell, so I just want to go into a little bit more detail on that and just try and explain, how we see that being the reality in the UK market, and not even just in the UK, but generally, and again how that relates to you. And then I'm going to very, very briefly focus on ArrowSphere XSP, which is our ArrowSphere platform for partners that wish to build cloud solutions. And I'm going to run through some kind of top-level introductions to that platform, hopefully as a bit of a taster-stroke teaser, and then with the idea being that I've got a couple of the ArrowSphere cloud team out at the ArrowSphere stand, gladly do demos with you today on the platform in terms of what you could use it for within your business, starting tomorrow, or as a follow-up, as a call to action. The request from me would be that you kind of follow up with us, and we'll gladly come and run through it with you in a little bit more detail. So if we look at what the cloud strategy is, these are what we see when we're engaging with the MSP community, and again, this is research done across an EMEA basis, and from a personal point of view, engaging in the UK, these are the challenges that you guys face. So, I'm sure I'm not going to read through all of them, but I'm sure that you're looking through that slide, and one or several of those are resonating with you, and fundamentally, the reason why I think this is important for our cloud strategy is our cloud strategy is built upon our learnings and our development, getting things wrong, revisiting them, changing it and evolving that cloud strategy. So we continue to do that, and we continue to learn, and for us it's all around trying to share that experience and that best practice that we get from engaging with a number of MSPs. And if you look at XSP Central, ArrowSphere XSP as a platform alone, we've got over 500 MSPs using XSP across EMEA, and nearly 100 in the UK. So there's lots and lots of partners that we're engaged with that are in the same space, in the same community as you guys. We're continually taking that feedback and continuing to look to improve. So Steve touched on this slide earlier, so I just want to go into a little bit more detail on this. So what is our cloud strategy? So 18 months ago when I joined Arrow's cloud strategy was fundamentally around ArrowSphere. And ArrowSphere was a cloud aggregation platform that partners could use to aggregate provision and billing of cloud services. What our cloud strategy is today is not ArrowSphere. What we've learned by engaging with partners like yourselves, the traditional reseller community and vendors, is that what the cloud strategy is and needs to be is a collection of market-leading services, pay-as-you-go, IaaS and SaaS. It's also a collection of cloud-focused people. I've got a team of dedicated cloud pre-sales people and sales business development people in my team that are paid on all cloud revenue in the UK that work across and into all the various vendor teams. And I think that's a real strong commitment around our cloud strategy in terms of people that are out feet on the street talking cloud and engaging, discussing cloud on a regular basis. If you notice, I didn't use the word experts because again, it's all about we're continually learning what is cloud and how do we address cloud and how do you maximise the opportunity of cloud. So, but I'd like to think that we're very knowledgeable in that space and continue to learn. So what our cloud strategy then does is it takes those market-leading services across the top. With all of the resources that we have at our disposal, and then we enable partners to resell and or build cloud services to your end user customer. And one of the platforms that we have to do that is ArrowSphere is the name of our platforms. And we have two different platforms. We have a resale platform and we have a build platform. And the idea is, I guess, going back to my initial point about some of the questions that were asked earlier in terms of how do you manage the customer retention, how do you maximise margin or make that opportunity real, these platforms are what we believe enable you to do that. So in terms of resell, we're not going to focus on that predominantly today, but we have a catalogue of services that we enable partners to resell to their end user customer. And I've got a slide in a second which shows you some of the services that we've got. But we can resell those cloud services the way that you sell today. So whether you sell online or whether you sell in, using a telephone box, however you sell and interact with your customer, we will enable you to, as efficiently as possible, with minimising processes, process that cloud subscription and manage that cloud subscription. We can help you by providing you some APIs into an existing web store, so we can give you access to the work and the development that we've done, our contractual agreements that we've got in place with these tier one cloud vendors, for you to be able to leverage that API to if you have an e-commerce platform, for example, so you can sell that into your customer base. Or we can actually help you build a store. So we can, if you don't have an e-commerce store today, we can help you build an e-commerce store if that's how you choose to interact with and go to market within your customer base. So build, and this is the ArrowSphere XSP platform that I'm going to go into a little bit more detail on in the next few slides. At the very beginning of my cloud strategy, I touched on what we see as your challenges and the challenges that many MSPs and partners are facing. Within the XSP tool, this is where we believe that we predominantly address the majority of those challenges for you, whether it be how do you reduce your administration and process time so that you can actually free up resources and time to focus on selling, or whether it is how do you maximise the selling in essence in the aspect of building propositions, margin modelling those propositions and taking those propositions out to your customer base. So we can do a number of different things within XSP, and again I'm going to go through detail on each one of these in a slide each. In terms of what's available to you, so if you think about the cloud strategy slide, I touched on that that our part of our cloud strategy was giving access to a cloud portfolio, and I also mentioned that we was obviously growing and learning and evolving in our experience in cloud. If we go back 12 months ago, that line card would be a lot bigger. We had a lot more services that we focused on or that we didn't focus on, and we felt then that was what people wanted, and what we've actually realised through working with partners like yourselves is actually what people want is they want services that are sellable, that customers are buying, and that you can easily package up within your existing services. So what we've done is reduce that line card with a view to getting more focus and more synergies with existing cloud propositions, and then we'll look to expand that line card out, but on a very stringent criteria in terms of actually what the opportunity is, rather than what the brand name may be. So if you think about pay-as-you-go licenses, obviously all of the key players you'd expect there, so Microsoft, SPLA, VMware, VSPP, etc. In terms of infrastructure as a service, from a UK perspective, SoftLayer, Colton and VCHS. I know that Microsoft guys obviously presented this morning. You'll notice Azure is on there today. Obviously our Microsoft relationship exists with SPLA as opposed to Azure today, but that's something that we're discussing with Microsoft. And then from a software as a service point of view, you can see a number of different vendors on there. SAP Business One, security, SaaS, online backup, and kind of collaboration with Citrix. And again, we're looking to kind of expand that portfolio. And I think the key for me is when we talk to partners around these services, there is a use case for some, not necessarily all of those services within every single MSP. I'm a massive user right now. There you go. You know what? Not sure why that's not working. So, just want to go into ArrowSphere XSP as a platform. And as I say, the idea of these next few slides is just to hopefully set the seed in terms of what the platform can give to your business and how you can use it in your business, rather than just talk about services that you can build cloud on or services that you can take to your customer base. So fundamentally, what is XSP and what are the benefits? So it's a software tool that Arrow developed that addresses a number of specific needs for the MSP community, namely reporting in terms of administration overhead and operational processes, reporting, Microsoft SPLA, VMware VSPP, etc. So we can automate some of those tasks. We can graphically interact with whoever's doing the reporting around some of those tasks. So we negate the needs for a number of different reporting templates and spreadsheets. And because of that, we've got customers, and this number varies by MSP, but some customers have actually saved nearly 40% administration time by simply using the graphical console across 2 programs, as opposed to having to go and do that manually on some spreadsheets. So there is some real tangible benefits. It dramatically improves that process as well. So although it doesn't 100% commit compliance, it helps with that compliance process. So because it's an easy to use tool and because it's drop down and it's intuitive, you're less likely to be non-compliant. You get up-to-date pricing and data from vendors. So what you can do with an XSP, and I mentioned on the margin maximisation, is you can actually build cloud stacks. So you can build a stack that you may or may not have today, and you can actually build a competitor stack. And so if you're doing a what-if scenario, so you can look at VMware or Microsoft, you can look at infrastructure as a service or owning your own technology, and you can compare what that cost model would look like in your business to make some real business decisions on. You can extend your services. So I spoke about the resell portfolio. Through XSP, you can access those services. So as well as being able to manage the pay-as-you-go programs, you can manage infrastructure as a service and software as a service. So the 4 key areas that are currently in XSP, and the reason I say currently is, again, it's an iterative process that we continue to develop and evolve this platform. When we first launched the platform last year, we predominantly focused on being able to find pay-as-you-go software programs, understanding a little bit about those programs and what they have to offer for you, and then we focus on the reporting of those programs. So if you obviously find and reporting there. What we've introduced more recently in our version 2 launch is the infrastructure as a service and software as a service features, which we've got some screenshots on, and the ability to combine and build a cloud stack which encompasses more than just the pay-as-you-go software. So, we can, if you've got a specific bundle around pay-as-you-go software that's, VMware, Microsoft and McAfee, for example, in a stack, you can create that stack and say, and then at the end of the month you can say, I've sold 1,000 of them, and it would automatically generate the reports for you as an example. Or you can also build a cloud optimized stack, like I touched on earlier, and say, well, what would the difference be if I used Hyper-V or if I used vSphere? Yeah, so you can look at those kind of cost models. And you've got a dashboard. So because it's graphical, it's not on a spreadsheet, and because it's a combined tool that runs across multiple programs, you can actually see in real time how your business is trending around specific technologies within the program. So if you are doing SPLA, is that SQL, is that Exchange, etc. So you can again try and use that to drive and define your strategy. So there are a couple of new enhanced features. The next feature, the next major feature that we're working on, which is in pilot at the moment, is a tracking tool. So specifically for Microsoft, there's a big challenge from MSPs in terms of actually going and understanding what is implemented in the estate, what is peak usage on those Microsoft licenses, and then what is compliancy and what is the best way to license what I've consumed or my customers have consumed in my environment. And we're going to have a tracking tool that you can deploy in your environment, get that data back as data, but then we'll have a connector into XSP which will apply the SPLA rules to that data, so that we can actually generate a Microsoft report. So again, we're continually evolving the platform as customer feedback and customer demands come back to us. And because it's an in-house tool that we own the development and the code, that's something that we can continue to invest and continue to develop. So just a couple of screenshots, and I'm not going to dwell on these because, you know, demos are much better than screenshots. And like I said, you know, the reason I've not done a demo today is that what I'd rather do is do a one-on-one demo and actually allow some interaction and curtail that demo to your specific environment where appropriate, because, you know, I think you get a better feel. But in terms of finding the programs, you know, there's an intuitive way to look at the programs. You know, you select your vendor, you select the licensing program within, you can click on any of those boxes and get information at a very top level. If that's not enough, it links you straight through to the website. So it's a very powerful tool, a very powerful repository. And again, a lot of MSPs are looking to use this as a sales tool as well as a reporting tool to enable their sales and pre-sales organisations when they're costing out and speccing out solutions, rather than having to think about what it might be that they need to build and then going away and costing it. They can do that through this one stack. So you can see, you know, a couple of different programs that you can find. In terms of infrastructure as a service, so we have something called the IaaS Finder. So you know, again, very easily, you know, put in some specific requirements. The map actually just gives you, as it says in the tin, you know, gives you a map, and you can actually select data center location of, if you're choosing to actually say, you know what, whether that's to burst into some infrastructure as a service, or you want to build a cloud service on infrastructure as a service because you've modeled it and that's what you decide to do as a business. You can do that from within here, and you can start to compare different infrastructure as a service offerings from providers like Colt and SoftLayer. And as you can see, as you can build them in, and you can then start to look at, you know, you can compare the stack of different services, and you could create separate stacks with multiple services in as well. So, you know, there's quite a large degree. And what you can actually do from this point here is you can actually create quotes as well. So, you know, this is just purely looking at comparing infrastructure to service, but, you know, if that was SoftLayer, this was Microsoft, and, you know, this was McAfee for X number of users, you could actually generate a quote that you could apply a margin uplift for and actually give that to your customer. And we're seeing a lot of customers that are looking to use it for that. So as well as IaaS Finder, we've got a SaaS Finder. You know, exactly the same concept, but, you know, you can actually go and find software as a service technologies that we have within our cloud services portfolio, and you can find them, find information on them, and look to quote from within there. So I mentioned the stat builder. So, you know, we break it into infrastructure, application, and service. And then each of these layers, there's the ability to manually input some data as well. So, you know, if in infrastructure, you say, well, actually, you know, I own the asset, whether you own the data center or your colo, you know, but you know what that cost is associated to a specific number of users, you can actually add that in manually yourself. And then within the application layer and the service layer, you know, within a service layer, you may add what your 24/7 support or what managed service wraparound that you add into that service. And then the application layer, that's where you're going to be adding your, you know, your hypervisor and your applications in terms of Microsoft, etc. So you can start to build that stack, you know, and it's not rigid that you can only build that stack for what's sold by Arrow and XSP, but you can also build that stack based on what you know your cost bases are for some specific things. And then you get a dashboard, so you can, you know, graphically trend, you know, or review the trend of how you're performing and your reports usage are against a number of different programs. As you can see here, you know, there's a subscription to multiple programs here, and then that trends across. And you can actually then drill down into each of those and specific programs and look at what, you know, further detailed information, again in a graphical format, so you can get access to that information and make some informed business decisions based on what you can see. From a reporting point of view, very easy to report, you know, various degrees of automation depending on the program, but you know, you can literally within minutes, you know, do a VMware report from just uploading a CSV file, click next, done, and, you know, you validate it, and away you go. So gives you an idea. So that's it in terms of what our cloud strategy is, in terms of what, you know, specifically our XSP platform is, and how we believe that we can actually, you know, you can actually use that platform and leverage the wider resource and focus that we've got to help make something tangible in your business rather than just a supply conversation. As I say, my call to action to you is either to follow up, on a personal basis, or go and grab the guys on the ArrowSphere mini stand as it is outside, and they'll gladly demo it with you today, or we'll set up some follow-up meetings. But and Denise is going to go into a lot more detail on the kind of value add piece that Steve touched on in terms of what our role was in the channel. We had a role which was cloud and our value add. So Denise is going to touch on that later. We just kind of wanted to just link that in together in terms of, I mentioned 500 service providers before because this is slightly out of date, so apologies. But it's a platform that lots and lots of MSPs are using. Every single one of those MSPs are getting some value from the tool, whether that is from simple administration, reducing operational time that they're spending, or whether they're using it as a sales engine and a sales tool to actually drive provision of services. So for me it'd be a kind of, I guess it's just worth just adding it's free. Yeah, so as long as you're working with Arrow, it's a value added service that Arrow provides to our MSP community. Yeah, so as long as you're buying Microsoft Splar or et cetera, and again Denise will go through in terms of the wider MSP program, you get access to this as part of that program. So it's part of our value add to you. So for me it's kind of a why wouldn't you rather than do you want to.